Adam Smith, so how the market is basically regulating the supply and demand. So on one hand, users are looking for certain types of content. On the other hand, developers, publishers, brands are meeting that demand through, for instance, a market like an app store. Talking about how big is the market, just looking from our own perspective, it's huge. So if we think about how our device portfolio is segmented and structured, so we do have what we call a feature phone portfolio, which are more limited devices in terms of capabilities. So what kind of content can you access? Still you have the possibility to access content, you have the possibility to access the internet, you have the possibility to access certain types of applications. That we have by far the largest installed base. But what we're seeing in terms of content uptake, it's not as significant proportionally to what's happening in the smartphone segment. So where we have our Symbian-based portfolio, so these are real touch-enabled smartphones that really enable a rich experience when consuming content, whether it's via an application or via a mobile browser. Also then, in light of our recent strategy announcement, we'll add to this portfolio to a set of Windows Mobile, Windows Phone based devices. So we probably see the similar trend going there. And when I was talking about mobile marketplaces, currently today we're talking about top 3 marketplaces globally. I think the situation also locally is the same here in Romania. So we're talking about 3 ecosystems that are forming around these 3 biggest platforms, one being the Apple ecosystem, the other being the Android, and the third being the Nokia ecosystem. A little about our own marketplace, the Ovi store, and the learnings that we got from the store, and some of the statistics that really it is a large phenomenon. It's by far exceeding our expectations on how consumers are adapting this marketplace and are basically searching, downloading, purchasing content. So today we're experiencing over 5 million downloads a day globally on our devices. We're present in 190 countries, so we have publishers publishing content into the store in over, I think we're at 100 countries. So publishers are globally basically supplying content to the store. One significant thing that we're seeing is that with working with operators, we also provide a monetization opportunities for publishers to monetize content via, for instance, premium SMS billing. And we see that being a major also shift in the way consumers are reacting to paid content. So for instance, we see on average publishers getting 60% more revenues in countries where we enable payment of content via premium SMS. We have cases that the number has gone up 13 times and so on and so forth. We're seeing a really exponential growth also in the amount of content that there is available in the store. And I'll share an interesting fact to that most of the content that is coming in right now is what we call hyper-local. So it's basically targeted at a specific country or at a specific customer segment. Also what we see is that, of course, the growth is exponential. We came to those 5 million downloads a day at a really accelerated pace. So really goes to show how this economy is basically growing at an unprecedented pace. Furthermore, that in terms of the addition to those downloads, we see that the newer devices that we launch, particularly the latest Symbian devices, are adding the most. So those users, the users that are buying our devices today, those are the most active ones also when it comes to content consumption. As I said, local applications and content are currently the major drivers for this growth. Of course, we cannot deny the fact that we do get similar patterns that Stephen outlined in terms of what content is being sought. That of course games like Angry Birds, Facebook, Yahoo, and so on and so forth, and YouTube are the major brands that by far have the largest downloads and uptakes. But when you aggregate in the amount of countries we are and the amount of local content we get in, that by far outweighs of how much downloads we get, for instance, from an application like Facebook or YouTube. To be very quick, how you can get into this ecosystem, and I think there was a lot said already in the previous presentation in by far more detail, and probably we'll talk about this throughout the day. But I see this basically four basic strategies and approaches on how companies, brands are entering into this game, what we call. It's, it's basically it's not mutually exclusive. So a campaign, a product, a company might use many of those. But starting with mobile advertising, it can be as simple as going into an SMS campaign, buying some ads in other mobile applications, then going on just by a simple investment, optimize your website to be able to be consumed by mobile users. So you strip the content that you think that the mobile user is not going to need and offer very targeted content to them. And then going on to actually packing that mobile optimized site into an application and distribute it via the Obi store, maybe add some additional capabilities that enable the user experience to be richer, for instance, integrating location capabilities so you're able to locate the user and offer them content that is relevant by location, or several other things that we can do. And then going on, what I call the tip of the iceberg, which we call a native application that is fully integrated with the device, so it can offer various multimedia experiences, very rich experience, and usually are more immersive, so meaning that users use them by far more than, for instance, just browsing to a mobile website. So these are some of the strategies. I'm sure that you'll hear a lot more from my colleagues. I have a session in the afternoon where I'm more going to go into details about the latter two, so how you can basically, what is the process to mobilize your either campaign, your brand, or your website. Talking about examples, I wanted to highlight one example on how, for instance, we were cooperating with Red Bull globally in taking advantage of, for instance, our distribution channel and how they centered their Stratos campaign. Basically, they sent a person up in space, and then basically they developed with the campaign also a mobile application, whereas the users got, of course, besides the recent news, blogs, etc., but you can, during the event, you were able to see what the person was seeing there, including heart rate, body temperature, etc., So it's a really nice way to make your campaign very interactive and really to make it really effective. And the effect that we got, because then together with the campaign, we also tied this to a Nokia campaign where we came to the market with a new set of devices. So in this case, it was the last year's campaign around the X6, and we've got some tremendous results out of this. And this is happening already around the globe, and it's happening also here in Romania. So without further ado, I think it's best that we see, for instance, what Nestle has been doing with us recently, and how, for instance, they're using what I just told you. So, for instance, how they're entering into this what we call economy, and what kind of approach they have. So this is all I had for you today, and I think we move on.
Thank you. I have one question before that one. main benefits of mobile application for a marketer? I mean, we can use mobile web or the regular web. So what brings a mobile application?
There are several components why a mobile marketeer would opt to choose for a native or for an application. A, you have the benefit of distributing this application via an application store, where today a lot of consumers are basically searching for content. B, you have the option to make this experience much more immersive, meaning that user gets the application onto their application menu, meaning that it's integrated all the time there, rather than all the time having to go search or bookmark and do stuff in their browser. As it was already mentioned, browsers sometimes do require a few more steps rather than having the application right there in your menu. And the third being that it can be much better integrated with the phone itself, as well as you have also additional monetization possibilities, feedback possibilities that is offered by the platform itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Haruka, I will invit să reiei tu. Eu am văzut aplicația și mi s-a părut o idee foarte interesantă.